Foster care is not the place they show you in feel-good movies. There are no warm counselors with soft voices and hot chocolate before bed. There are gray walls, squeaky mattresses, and a cafeteria line where the food always runs out before it gets to you. Sarah and I had lived there since we were 4. We came in together, and together we held on through all of it. We were inseparable, literally. They sat us at the same table, we slept in neighboring beds, we even got sick at the same time, like our bodies had agreed to run on the same schedule. The staff called us the shadow and the reflection. I was the shadow. Sarah was the reflection. Or maybe the other way around. I could never really tell which one of us was which. We were 10 years old when everything changed. I remember that day down to the smallest detail. Friday afternoon after lunch, Sarah and I were sitting in the yard playing cards we'd made ourselves out of cardboard. Ms. Patterson, the director, came out onto the front steps and called Sarah inside. I got up to follow, automatically like always, but Ms. Patterson stopped me at the door.
Vanessa, I need you to wait out here.
For the first time in my life, I stood alone on the other side of that door. Sarah came out 20 minutes later. Her face looked strange. Not happy, not sad, but frozen somehow. She sat down next to me on the step and stayed quiet for a long time.
They're taking me on Sunday.
I didn't understand at first what that meant. And then I did. Ms. Patterson always said that no one wants to take 2 kids or separate the twins. That's why she never revealed that there were 2 of us. The woman's name was Linda Brower. She showed up on Sunday at 11:30 in a beat-up sedan with rust along the bottom of the doors. Short, broad-shouldered, with hard eyes and a smile that never made it past her lips. She signed the paperwork fast, barely glancing at Sarah. Ms. Patterson was saying something about routines and meal schedules. Linda Brower nodded along but was clearly not listening. I stood at the second-floor window and watched Sarah get into the car. Before she pulled the door shut, she looked up and found my window. We looked at each other for a few seconds. Then the car drove away. That night, I slept alone for the first time in my life. The bed next to mine was neatly made and completely empty. I stared at it until 3 in the morning before I finally fell asleep. 3 weeks passed, then a month. No word from Sarah. There was no easy way to call from the group home. I asked Ms. Patterson if everything was okay. She said Sarah was settling in, adjusting to her new home. I almost believed her. Almost. Because 6 weeks after Sarah left, I woke up at 2 in the morning to a sound at the first-floor window. A quiet, rapid, nervous tapping. I crossed the room and looked out, and saw Sarah. She was standing below the window in filthy clothes, hair tangled, hands scratched up from something sharp. Her eyes were red. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I opened the window.
Vanessa, I need to talk to you. Just keep your voice down, please.
I helped her climb inside. We sat on my bed, pulled the blanket over both of us, and she started talking. Linda Brower lived on a farm about 15 miles outside of town. Big property, cornfields, a few outbuildings, and a house that looked ordinary from the outside but was cold, dirty, and nearly empty on the inside. Linda Brower took in kids from foster care regularly, not because she wanted a family, because the state paid her a monthly stipend for every child she took in. She spent the money on herself. And the kids, she used them as free labor. Sarah woke up at 5 every morning, worked the fields until noon, ate whatever Linda Brower left over, usually cold oatmeal or a piece of bread with water. After lunch, back to the fields until dark. Then she cleaned the house, slept on a mattress in a storage room.
Vanessa, I can't do it. I can't stay there anymore. My hands hurt all the time. I cry every night and I try to be quiet so she doesn't hear me.
I held her hands and didn't know what to say. What can you even say to that? We sat like that until 4 in the morning. And then Sarah said something that stopped me cold.
Let's switch. Take turns. She doesn't know there are 2 of us. Nobody knows.
It was a crazy idea. But we were 10 years old. We had no adults we could trust. And we were identical twins who looked absolutely alike. We both knew it was the only way to help each other through it. The plan was simple. One of us lives at the farm for a week, the other stays at the group home. Then we switch. Linda Brower wouldn't suspect. She barely looked at Sarah as a person, only as a pair of working hands. The group home staff didn't notice the difference either. There were too many of us, and the counselors rotated shifts. My first week at the farm hit me hard physically. I wasn't ready for how exhausted it made me. The fields were enormous, the corn was tall, and the sun was relentless. Linda Brower walked between the rows like a foreman and threw out short commands when she felt like it.
Move faster. What? Are you tired? You call that tired? Keep working.
I worked. Jaw tight, I worked. At night, after she fell asleep, I cried quietly into the pillow, not from pain, from anger, from the fact that this was just happening, to kids who had done nothing wrong except be born into the wrong situation. After a week, we switched again. Sarah came back to the farm. I returned to the group home. And we kept rotating. A week there, a week here. We met at the handoff point and held on to each other like we hadn't seen each other in a year. Sometimes we cried right there on the road between town and the farm, standing in the dark until we got cold and went our separate ways. That went on for almost 4 months, and then everything changed again. This time, not for the worse, at least not for one of us. One morning, Ms. Patterson called me into her office. I walked in and found a couple sitting across from the desk. A man and a woman, both well-dressed, both with open and warm faces. They looked at me differently than Linda Brower had, not like they were evaluating a purchase. Like I was a person. Their names were David and Carol Whitfield. They had a large home outside the city, ran their own business, and had no children. They had been looking for a daughter for 2 years. I was adopted 3 weeks later. I still remember my first evening in their house. A real room with a real bed, white sheets, and a floor-to-ceiling window looking out over the backyard garden. A glass of water and a small lamp on the nightstand. Carol appeared in the doorway to say goodnight.
Vanessa, if you wake up scared or just want to talk, knock on our door. We stay up late.
I nodded and didn't say anything. When she closed the door, I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I felt okay. And that feeling came with a quiet guilt I didn't know what to do with. Because Sarah was still out there, on the farm, in the fields, with cold oatmeal and a storage room mattress. The first few weeks I kept switching with her. I'd get to the road near the farm, we'd quietly meet up, trade clothes, and go our separate ways. The Whitfields thought I was at a friend's house. Linda Brower didn't notice any difference. But then something started happening that I'm still ashamed to admit. The new house was good, genuinely good. David took me fishing on weekends. Carol taught me to cook, not scraps, but real food, with actual recipes and long conversations at the kitchen counter. On my birthday, they gave me a bicycle. I had never owned anything that was mine, and here was a bicycle. I started adjusting, and the more I adjusted, the harder it became to leave for the farm. The more painful it was to go back to the fields and the storage room after a soft bed and breakfast at a real table. And one week, I just didn't show up. Sarah waited for me on the road, and I was home watching a movie with the Whitfields. I told myself I'd go next week, then the week after, then the week after that.
Vanessa, where are you? We had a plan. I've been waiting for over an hour.
She got that message to me through a kid from the group home. I read it, folded it up, threw it away, and pretended it never existed. I know how that sounds. I know. 2 months passed since the last switch. I had almost convinced myself it was fine, that I had a different life now, that I deserved this, that Sarah would manage. She was tough. We were both tough. But somewhere underneath, I knew it was a lie. And that lie lived in my chest like a splinter I kept careful not to touch. Then came that evening. I was home alone. The Whitfields were out at a dinner with friends. I was in the living room with a book when I heard knocking at the front door. Hard, insistent, almost angry knocking. I opened it. Sarah was standing on the porch, but it wasn't the Sarah I remembered. In those 2 months, she had hollowed out. Dark circles under her eyes, cracked lips, hands covered in calluses. She looked at me the way you look at someone you searched for a long time and finally found, relief and fury at the same time.
You left me. You just left me there.
I had nothing to say.
2 months alone, every single day. Do you know she makes me work Sundays now? That I sleep maybe 4 hours? That my hands don't even straighten out properly anymore? You're standing here in this beautiful house while I'm rotting out there. That's not fair, Vanessa. That is not fair.
She was right. I knew she was right. But something in me, something small and cowardly, instead of reaching for her and apologizing, took a step back. Sarah, I can't keep doing this. I have a family now. I have a real life. I can't keep leaving it every week. The silence between us was deafening.
Got it.
She turned and walked away. I closed the door, sat down on the floor right there in the entryway, and didn't move until the Whitfields got home. What I didn't know that evening was that Sarah had made a decision right then and there. A decision I never could have predicted. One that honestly would never have occurred to me. Because I didn't think she was capable of it, that anyone was capable of it. 3 more weeks went by. Normal weeks in school, home, dinners at the big table. Carol bought me a new jacket. David taught me chess. Life kept moving forward, and I almost convinced myself the splinter had gone quiet. Then one morning I woke up and something felt wrong about my room. Not the room itself. The same white walls, the same floor-to-ceiling window, the same nightstand lamp. But something was off. The lamp was sitting about 2 inches to the left of where I always kept it. The book on my desk was face down. I never put books face down. I always use a bookmark. And the smell, barely noticeable, almost exactly like mine, but not quite. I went downstairs for breakfast. Carol smiled at me the way she always did.
Morning, sweetheart. Sleep okay?
Fine, I said, and started eating my oatmeal. But at the table I was thinking, rewinding, something is wrong, something is very wrong. And then it hit me. 3 days ago at dinner, I had told Carol a story about my friend from the group home, Jade, who loved drawing horses. I told it in detail, with specifics. This morning, Carol asked, "How's your friend, the one who draws cats?" Cats, not horses, cats. Carol would not have mixed that up. She always listened carefully, always remembered details. That was one of the things I loved about her, which meant she hadn't been talking to me. 3 days ago at dinner, she hadn't been talking to me. I went upstairs and searched my room, shelf by shelf methodically, and I found it. In the front pocket of my backpack, a small note folded into quarters, Sarah's handwriting. Vanessa, if you're reading this, it means you came back. I knew you'd come back because I didn't come here to stay forever. I came so you would feel it. Just feel what it's like to lose what fell into your lap while I was out there working. I don't want to ruin your life. I want you to remember that I exist. I read it 3 times, then folded it back up and put it in my pocket. Sarah had been here, living in my house with my family in my bed, pretending to be me. And judging by the fact that Carol hadn't noticed, doing it convincingly, we were identical twins. We knew each other inside and out. She could be me. She always could. My first reaction was anger, hot and immediate. How dare she? How dare she come into this house and live my life, touch my things, talk to my parents? The second thought came later, cold and uncomfortable. She did exactly what I had done. She took something that wasn't hers, because she had nothing of her own. I went to the farm. I knew the way by memory. How many times had I walked it in the dark? The farm looked the same. Big property, cornfields, the gray house behind the leaning fence. I walked up and knocked. Linda Brower opened the door. She looked at me for a few seconds. Then something shifted in her expression, like a lock clicking open, like pieces arranging themselves into a picture she didn't expect.
Well, there are 2 of you.
It wasn't a question. I started to say something, to explain, to leave, to do anything, but she was already reaching for her phone.
So one of you was living with some rich family while I thought it was the same girl this whole time. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, 2 of you means twice the work. And I've got plenty of that.
The next 2 days were the worst of my life. Worse than anything before, because now I knew what it felt like when things were different. When there was real food and a soft bed and people who said goodnight and meant it. Linda Brower drove to the Whitfield house the next morning. I don't know exactly what she said to Sarah or to Carol. I only know that by evening both of us were on the farm. Sarah didn't look at me for the first few hours. We worked separate rows and I could hear her breathing, heavy and angry. When Linda Brower went inside the house, Sarah walked over. She stood next to me, picked up an ear of corn and started working without a word.
I didn't want it to go like this.
I know.
I just wanted you to understand.
I know. We worked side by side until dark. No more talking, just working together. And in a strange way, it felt almost like before, like the group home, when we did everything together, except worse, so much worse. That night, in the storage room where there were now 2 mattresses instead of 1, Sarah started crying quietly. I moved closer and took her hand. She didn't pull it away. We lay in the dark holding hands and said nothing. That night, I made a decision. If we got out of here, I would never leave her again, no matter what happened. On the second day, around noon, when the sun was directly overhead and the air above the fields was shimmering with heat, I heard the sound of a car on the road. Then another one. Linda Brower, standing at the end of the row, turned toward the sound. 2 cars pulled up at the gate. David and Carol got out of the first one. 2 men in uniform got out of the second. Carol walked fast, almost running. When she saw us, 2 identical girls in dirty clothes standing in the middle of a cornfield, she stopped for 1 second, then kept moving.
Vanessa, Sarah, come here, right now.
Linda Brower tried to say something. One of the officers stopped her with a single gesture. The other was already pulling out documents. I took Sarah's hand. We walked to the gate together. I found out later how they found us. Carol noticed something was off the day after Sarah first showed up in her house. Sarah didn't know where I kept my favorite mug. Such a tiny thing, but Carol noticed. She started asking questions. Sarah got flustered, and then everything came out. First that there were 2 of us, then the farm, the fields, Linda Brower. David handled it himself. Found the farm address through the foster care paperwork. Drove out there with the police. Linda Brower didn't end up going back to her fields. She went to court, and then somewhere with no fields at all. Investigators found that over the years, more than 10 children had passed through her property. The whole time she had been collecting state stipends while using kids as unpaid labor. The case got a lot of attention. The Whitfields took us both in. That conversation happened 3 days after the farm. Sarah and I were sitting in the big living room. Sarah in the armchair, me on the couch. Both in clean clothes, both holding warm mugs. Carol came in, sat across from us, and said it simply, without a long lead-up.
We want you both to stay. If that's what you want, nobody's going anywhere.
Sarah looked at me. I looked at her.
Both of us?
Both of you. You're sisters. We're not going to separate you.
Sarah nodded. Slowly, like she was testing whether this was real. Then faster. Then her lips started shaking and she covered her face with both hands. I didn't cover my face. I looked at Carol and thought about how sometimes people do exactly what they're supposed to do. They just take 2 identical girls and say both of them. It's been a few years since then. Sarah and I live in the same house, go to the same school, do everything together again, but differently now. Not because we have nowhere else to go, but because we choose to be together. Some evenings we sit out in the backyard and just talk about school, music, what we want to do with our lives. Sometimes we don't talk at all. Sarah likes the comfortable kind of quiet. Not because there's nothing to say, but because it's just good to sit next to someone and not need to fill the silence. One evening she asked me, not with any anger, just quietly,
Do you regret it? That I showed up at your house that day? That everything happened the way it did?
I thought about it honestly, for real. No, I don't. Because if she hadn't come, if there hadn't been those 2 days on the farm, if Carol hadn't noticed that mug, we wouldn't be here. Both of us, together. Sometimes everything has to fall apart before it can come together the right way. My name is Vanessa. I'm 18 years old. I have a twin sister, a mom, a dad, a bicycle, and a room with a floor-to-ceiling window. And I will never let go of her hand again.